So I did like a trail marathon, and then next thing I know, I'm like doing a 50K and a 50 miler, and then I did a 100 miler, and then I did 200 milers.
Wait, hold
And
on.
it's really
Let's back up. You ran for 200 miles?
100 miles. I've done that twice.
Welcome Mindy Slovinsky to the podcast today. Mindy lives in Maine. She is one of Nick Delgadillo's online coaching clients. I don't know a ton about her, but we're going to find out today. So, Mindy, why don't you start us off with how strong you are? What are your PRs?
Wow. Okay. I should say first how short I am, so people don't think. So these numbers sound better.
Yeah.
Caveat first. So I'm like barely 5 feet tall. So let's see. My press is 102. My bench is 130. My squat is about 203, and I think my deadlift is about 236.
That's pretty cool.
So
where did you start?
Oh gosh, like nothing.
Yeah. So for example, what was your squat on day one? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh. The bar plus, 10 pounds or something. I mean, it was really totally starting from scratch. Yeah. I had not lifted before.
And how long ago was this?
This was about 4 years ago. So summer of 2018, I started lifting.
What's your body weight, by the way, and your age?
I am 51, mm-hmm. and I'm probably around like 116.
So 51 years old, 116 pounds body weight, squatted and deadlifting over 200.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I'm glad that you're saying that, because I have no point of reference. There's a little bit of isolation, kind of like doing this by yourself. So it's like, if Nick's like, man, you're getting strong, it's like, all right.
No, you're getting strong.
Great.
You earn your sticker when you're strong as a woman, when you have a 315 deadlift, a 225 squat, a 150 bench, and a 100-pound press. But keep in mind that the variation from woman to woman is much bigger than it is from man to man. Yeah. So it's a lot harder to develop a strength standard for women, just because you're 4'11", and some women are 6'2".
Yeah.
So you're strong as hell.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. And you should know, by the way, that my wife is 5'3", and she's breastfeeding at the moment, so she weighs in the 140s. She normally weighs high 120s, low 130s. Mm-hmm. She deadlifts a bit less than you, and squats around the same as you do. And mm-hmm. we were messing around yesterday and practicing some jujitsu, because she's kind of feeling good after birth now. And she's strong as hell. I told her, I said, I roll with the white belts, like the male white belts, and you're stronger than basically every white belt that's under 170, 160 pounds, including the guys,
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Like there's a pretty nasty blue belt who's a 16-year-old in class, and mm-hmm. she's definitely stronger than he is. And she's like, "Oh, really?" I was like,
That's
"Yeah,
awesome.
You can tell." So you are quite strong, and maybe you should go down to Iowa Park and meet your coach Nick, and go to his new jiu-jitsu school and see for yourself.
That would be amazing. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. I really don't have a chance to sort of test out strength other than the barbell, so it's kind of cool thinking about it in different contexts. You know?
Yeah. Well,
no one's challenging me to arm wrestle at the grocery store, unfortunately.
That's the unfortunate part of.
I don't know why,
but. All right. Well, so tell me what motivated you to do all this, because it's fairly unusual for a 51-year-old woman to start strength training in this manner and to, be able to lift over 200 pounds. So what was it that got you into this whole thing?
Yeah. Well, I'm a recovering ultra runner. So that was sort of I wouldn't say my window in, but it's sort of like kind of the path that I took. I was never, as a kid, I was not athletic at all. Like I was the kid like on the swim team that they were like politely clapping for, like as I came in, like I was finishing like half the lap as everyone else had already been done for a while.
The participation trophy.
So I played right field and stuff. Yeah, exactly. So not very athletic. And in high school, I mean, I'll kind of skip ahead, but like started running, recreationally. And over the years felt, I was in some, running groups and I just kind of kept pushing the distance a little bit more because, once you're sort of in this group of people doing stuff, it kind of inspires you to kind of push yourself more. And the social aspect was awesome. And so I started running like road marathons and long story short, I kept hurting myself. I was really, I was getting stress fractures. I was eating like shit. I didn't really know what I was doing. It just seemed like more was probably better. So that's what I did. And it sort of came to, I thought that's what health was, like kind of pushing your body really hard. Like what could be bad about that? More. And I ended up switching over to trails, doing trail running because I was hurting myself and it was a kinder surface. The people were a little bit more chill. I like showed up at a trail race or like in my early days and like watched somebody go by. Like we were sort of like where the crowd could sort of gather. And this guy stopped. I watched him like stop, talk to some people. Somebody handed him a beer. He like had some beer, and then he like kind of went on his way. And I was like, what is this sport? Like, these are my people. It's amazing. Just seemed a little bit more laid back. And so same thing kind of happened with the trails. There was like this great social aspect. And people were like starting to do like long distance. So I did like a trail marathon, and then next thing I know, I'm like doing a 50K and a 50 miler, and then I did a 100 miler, and then I did 200 milers.
Wait, hold on.
And it's really.
Let's back up. You ran for 200 miles?
100 miles. I've done that twice.
Good Lord. I don't even like to drive for 100 miles. I don't even like to ride a motor. that is.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, seriously, really like riding a motorcycle for 100 miles is grueling, and you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
So you run for. I've heard of this before, but I've never actually talked to someone who's actually done it. You ran for 100 miles. 100
miles. So I'll say that there's you're not running like as hard as you can for 100 miles. You're running, you're probably, toward the end, you're walking, you're power hiking, you're running when you can. But it's still like nonstop. Yeah. There's aid stations along the way. But you've got a time span really that most races have like a cutoff, that you've got to make it in. But you're running all night, you're doing everything on the run and, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, because good marathoners are running marathons in 5 hours or something. So is this like a 24-hour situation, or how long does it take?
Yeah. So it depends on the race. I mean, most ultras are trail runs, so they're all different, and different terrain, different elevation, different all kinds of stuff. So probably the fastest people running the faster courses could do 100 miles, in like 13, 14 hours maybe, 15. Now those are the people that are winning. Mountainous courses, there's races out in, Colorado, the Alps, all kinds of stuff. And they may have like a 48-hour cutoff. And people may be the fastest people there may be doing it in like 20 some hours so the ones that I did were not super heavy terrain, and I'm like a mid packer. And I think it took me about 28 hours to do roughly to each of those times, like 28 or so.
And how long was
So
the
you're
longest
up.
rest in that 28 hours?
Um, the first one, I don't know, could be like 20, 25 minutes. Maybe the second one, I mean, not too long, probably less than 15 minutes, less than 20 minutes. You kind of come in, pull into like an aid station, which is just a folding table out in the middle of the woods with people that may or may not be drunk, like handing you like grilled cheeses and, filling up your water pack. You carry your hydration pack and you get what you need, change your shoes. There's places it's called a drop bag. You could have like a bag of like some of your gear that they'll truck out there if you need it, and like change your shirt or whatever. And then you just keep on going.
Can you tell us about
kooky.
Tell us about the things that go through your head and the stuff that you experience that people that haven't done it aren't aware of. So the things that strike me the most that I imagine are extremely difficult to overcome are, number one, obviously just the grit required to do something physical for that long. And then I'm also curious about how your body feels during the process and then after you do 100 miles on your feet.
Yeah. I think about the mental part. This is really kind of a make or break for people. And by profession, I'm a psychotherapist, so I think about this stuff a lot. And I also co-race direct a 100-mile race up here in Maine, so I see it from the other side too. But the training is pretty intense. Like, you're running all weekend. I'll caveat, like, a long run on the weekend and usually like a slightly long run the next day. So you're kind of practicing running on tired legs and stuff like that. So you kind of get to, in the race, a lot of times you're meeting new people, you're running with people for a while, there's sort of that aspect, things that just kind of keep your mind off things. But when it gets dark overnight, it's like literally dark, it's hard. It's kind of like, just keep going, and just get to the next aid station, and they may be 4 miles apart, depending on the race. They may be 7 miles apart. So a lot of it for me was like, just make it to the next aid station, and then just kind of reset and then just get to the next one. I think for me, it was just like, just keep moving. If I'm walking fast, if I'm running, and you would be amazed. I mean, like, this is coming from the person who like finished dead last in every swim race and, not coordinated, all that kind of stuff. You'd be amazed. It's very, very mental. And it's not that I have this grit that other people don't have. I think, I'm almost going to say, like, people who are hard on themselves are like, really bad place in my head. I know this place. This is easy. I can do this. There's a familiarity to it, but I think it's just like, you kind of surprise yourself. Like, you can keep on going. So I think a lot of people really push themselves to do it, could really have that experience of like, you'd be amazed at how much farther you can push yourself than what seems logically possible, say like 100 miles.
Is that what motivated you to do this in the first place?
Seeing if I could do it?
Is it just overcoming the challenge, or what was the main driver for you?
Yeah. I think I saw people around me doing it. It seemed very intriguing. We have friends doing it. I have a running friend and partner, and we also co-direct this race. And there's also this thing called pacing. So at some point during the race, later in the race, you can have what's called a pacer, which is, a person who's not running the race that is basically like there to kind of keep you moving, keep you motivated, making sure you're okay. And she paced a friend of ours at a race in Vermont, and he was a little bit more toward the back of the pack. And she saw the struggle, and she was like, "We can do this." She's like, "I think we really need to do this." And I was like, "All right, let's try it." And we did. So it was a lot of like, I want to see if I can do this. Like, let's just find out what happens.
Good for you. That's
And
impressive.
you win a belt buckle. So I've got, which is hilarious, but
You win
that's
a
the
belt
tradition.
buckle and systemic inflammation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might have fucked
Tell us
me.
about that part of it, and then I want you to get back to the story you were telling. But
Sure.
sorry to divert you. I'm just curious about this.
Yeah.
So how did your body feel after 100 miles?
It's, you know, I'm trying to remember back because it's been a little while, but just totally depleted. First, you're just tired. You just want to sit down, obviously, understatement. Um, and and be careful when you get back up because you're pretty stiff.
Yeah.
The recovery, there was like aches, there was like just the soreness of having, done something for, like a week or actually, maybe even less than a week. And then it was just tired. Then it's just kind of like getting your stores back up. So I remember just feeling fatigued for like a couple of weeks. I didn't break anything or hurt anything. Your feet are kind of, kind of a mess after if there's like blisters or, whatnot. But that's, I think it was more of just the fatigue and just feeling drained for a while. Again, and people are doing this multiple times a year.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I've had like these two little experiences, but they were awesome.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome more for the mental than the physical, I'm guessing. Like I don't think anyone believes this is good for you physically necessarily, but it certainly is it is certainly a monumental achievement to be able to put mind over matter for a day straight of physical activity.
Yeah.
Right?
Of just moving. And it's interesting because we sort of see it on the other side when we run our race, when we direct our race. And we'll see people throughout the race, and it's so interesting to see we follow like their stories basically, because they're sort of coming in. Our course is like an out and back for a couple of times. And so we'll see people come back in, and there are people who drop, the race, and they look okay, like we've seen enough people by now to sort of get a sense of who could probably physically keep going, but the mental thing isn't there. And so it's interesting watching, sort of seeing who drops. Could be like very, very fit looking people that, and then the people who actually finish are, they wanted it, or they had something different, or they were just after something else. And they don't look like the most athletic people all the time. Like you would never guess they were an ultra runner or, so it's pretty cool kind of watching it sort of split out, over the course of the race.
Yeah. Cause you can be successful even without physical gifts, as long as you can
Yes.
put your mind over the matter and grit through it. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got into running. You took it, let's just say, to a bit of an extreme, and then what happened next?
Yeah, well, this maybe is not so surprising. I really started to burn out. Running felt like a chore. I loved the social part. I loved being out in the woods, but it was like getting harder and harder to sort of get myself going. And I really kind of hit a low point of just wrestling with like, I just don't know if I like it anymore.
Felt like an
and I had done
obligation.
all this running, felt totally like an obligation. And I was talking with a friend, and he was like, what would you be doing if you weren't running all the time? And I'm like, I don't even know. Like I'd done like a little bit of triathlon stuff and I didn't really like it. I'm like, I'm not going to ride my bike. I'm not going to swim. Like, what is there? I'm like, I do kind of like, I kind of like weightlifting, but that was like, my experience was like barbells in the gym or, very minimal, but I liked it. I could say like, that's a thing I could see myself landing on in the midst of like not knowing what else to do. Which felt kind of cute, I think was kind of monumental for me because I really had to ask myself, like, how do you want to move your body? I felt like this sort of sense of like, I just want to slow down. I feel like I'm running literally. And I just had this sense of like, there's something about like deliberate movement against resistance that I'm like, that's just all I want to do right now. Like that just feels right. And so I kind of started there. I sort of got this janky like weight thing off of Craigslist. It was like this like teenager bar and like some old like beat up York plates. And I started looking online just to find out what was out there. And I actually ended up on what I learned now was sort of like a starting strength ripoff.
5x5.
And yep. And that was my window in. And what I liked about it, now that I can call it starting strength and appreciate it as that, but it was simple. I wanted something simple. I mean, running in the woods sounds simple, but it had gathered so much other stuff for me that it didn't feel simple anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And weightlifting in this 5x5 program was like, this is all you need to do. You're going to do it 3 days a week. There's only a couple of lifts. You're not doing this circuit stuff, which I was like, I don't want to do circuit stuff. Mm. And there were just all this attention to detail about technique. And I'm like, that sounds like something I want. So I started there. I had this like sheet of like, 11 million steps of how to do a deadlift. And I was just kind of looking at it and like trying to do it on me and all this kind of stuff down in my basement. And I, worked that program for a while. I had no idea what a linear progression was. I had no idea what starting strength was at that point. And I got to the place where I was just deloading. And like, I think like the rule, not the starting strength rule, but this rule was sort of like, if you fail X amount of times on a set, deload X% and then work back up. So I did that a couple of times and I kept getting back to the point where I'm like, I don't think I can add weight anymore. Like, I don't know what to do here.
What was your squat at this point, roughly?
Gosh, I wish I had my journals. I could tell you. I want to say, I don't know. I could guess like maybe low hundreds.
Yeah. Because 5x5 is not for novices, and especially not women novices. So I wanted to make sure my that applied to your situation as well, and it did. So hundreds is
it totally does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, this seems like a guide. I'll just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I happened to run into somebody at a psychology conference, and I was, heard them talking about weightlifting, and I was like, oh, somebody else. Cause like, the other thing I want to mention is like, it felt very isolating for me. Like as a middle-aged woman, none of my friends are doing this stuff. I didn't know anyone else. I was too afraid to go to the gym. Like, God, that did not feel like an option for me. I was doing all this stuff by myself in the basement. And I didn't see anybody out there like me. There was some like women powerlifters. I'm like, that's cool, but that's also not what I'm doing. Like that didn't really match, they were young, or I didn't really see anybody like me out there. So I heard these people talking, and this guy said, I think you should really check out starting strength. Like, I think you should, I think it's going to be really helpful for you. Just, So I did, and I found the website, I got the blue book, I started, I want to say I read every single page of the blue book, but I didn't. I read most of it, skipped over some parts.
It's dense.
It's dense, yeah. But it did help me, again, like kind of come back to form and, but again, I wasn't getting any form checks. I was just like guessing what I was doing was right, again, which kind of hindered my progression. And I finally, I think, there was an article online, I think, that Nick had written about like the overhead press and women, or like kind of maybe switching from like 5s to 3s, or I forget what it was, but it was like, oh, that's the closest thing I can find to like me, like I'm having a problem with that. It just felt like a match. And I ended up I'd been like, I'll send him an email. I'll just, he's a coach there. It looks like I'll just see what happens. But it was really scary to sort of to make that step. And I say that, again, because I felt like, lifting was not accessible to somebody like me. I don't look like a lifter. It felt embarrassing. I'm like, here's this middle-aged woman, like, hey, can you help me like with my lifts? Like, you think of like the weightlifting world, and I didn't feel like I had a place there.
Not yet.
So
You're the future of the brand, though, because I feel like your demographic benefits
I
the
have a
most
lot
from
to
this.
say about it. Yeah,
please do.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I got in touch with Nick. We did like a consult video call. It was amazingly cool. Like I feel like I have this like kind of fine-tuned bullshit meter, and Nick was like passed with flying colors of like somebody that I could trust. And
Isn't he
that
just the
was
chillest, most confident guy?
thing. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Can you say something bad about him? Because we always just compliment him on the show. Can you say, what's the worst thing about Nick?
I got nothing.
Yeah,
I got nothing.
I'll think of something. We'll ask Rip. Rip will have something to say.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I started working. We sort of did this like consultation. He kind of got me going back on. He's like, let's do some form checks. Made some adjustments, and that was sort of my step into like more. I don't know. I guess I would say like I wasn't redoing the linear progression, but I had sort of, that was my beginning really with like starting strength, and with really kind of doing a program that was probably about a year and a half after I'd started on my own that I tapped out. And I was like, I can't figure out my own programming. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But the thing that I really wanted was I wanted to keep doing it. That was the thing that was really motivating me. And I remember saying to Nick, I'm like, I don't care. Somebody told me I was going to be lifting like over 200 pounds. I'd be like, that's impossible.
Double body deadlift. Yeah.
Right. So like, again, that's sort of like, you don't know what you're capable of. I'm going to outsource all my programming. He's going to do all that stuff for me. I got the practical programming book, but it was just something that, it was a little too overwhelming for me to imagine. Like, I'm like, I don't want to be this feels like something if I were to be a coach, I would kind of consume all of this and be able to do my own programming. But if somebody else could do it for me, let's just do that. And it worked, and it was exactly what I needed.
I want to just mention that it's sort of like your profession, isn't it? You're in the professional services industry. So I could go learn about psychology, look it up online, buy books, and try to treat myself. But this is what you do for a living, So I'm assuming you're good at what you do. I'm probably better off just asking you for some help instead of trying to educate myself in your domain of expertise. So I think that's an efficient way to go for productive adults,
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that as a segue, because there are so many parallels, between that kind of, what I would say too about having the experience. When I say experience, I mean like the physical, the actual felt experience of lifting, as instead of, that translation from just reading about it to actually doing it. And which is why I would say, like, go to a seminar. I didn't go to a seminar because I think I found Nick, and that sort of served what I was needing at that time. But to really get the experience is a lot different from trying to do it on your own or trying to, kind of figure it out. So,
break down for us what it was like to start with Nick, because it sounds like you both were interviewing each other. From the question he asked you, I get the sense he was interviewing you too, because Nick doesn't work with everybody.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. So what was it like once you got started? How did that go down?
It was awesome. I would say I was really in the exact right place that I needed a coach. My kind of criteria was I want somebody that I can trust. And by trust, I mean like somebody that I feel like I know that they know what they're talking about, even if I don't know. Obviously, that's why I need a coach. Yep. But I want the sense that this person knows what they're doing, what they're suggesting to me feels genuine, feels like I really believe in what I'm asking you to do. Felt really solid. I think that was the thing that, even the 5x5 is different, but there weren't like a lot of advertisements on the page. Like I didn't feel like I was being sold a product. I felt like that I was being sold a skill or a set of skills, which is huge. And you don't find that in a lot of places. So I think that was the sort of the criteria for me, that I felt like this person has my best interest in mind of whatever that is, meeting my goals, or I just want to keep doing this as long as I can. So that was,
I mean, those are two simple criteria, but it's very tough to find someone who not only clearly has your best interests in mind, wants what's best for you, but also has the skills, the background, and the experience to provide you with what you're looking for. I mean, this industry, that's, when you find a coach like that, keep them close, right?
Yeah, for real. Yeah. For real. Because I think, I think about my experience as a female going to a gym and asking to lift like free weights, like plates, barbells. I mean, it's just, there was zero in my mind, opportunity for that. So shout out to Starting Strength gyms, where if I had seen that, I think like people like me lifting, people older than me lifting, people of all different shapes and sizes lifting, with that like one-on-one, careful attention. I mean, like I'm all in.
Well, we'd love to put one in Maine. There's just not enough people up there, unfortunately.
I know. We only have like 1 million people.
Yeah.
A lot of moose and a lot of snow. Yeah.
It sounds pleasant, but at the same time, not a good place to make a bet on a new business. Yeah. I'm especially curious about your first session. Can you break down for the people listening and watching what it's like on day one with an online coach? So what was different from the way you normally lifted? Was it live? Did you record yourself? How did that all go down?
So Nick showed me the just the coaching software interface that he uses, and said, I'm gonna push you these. I'm going to send you the workouts. It wasn't all the structure was roughly the same, 3 times a week. Pretty easy to see, like, these are the lifts that you're going to do today. Here's a video and just, one of the Starting Strength, like how to press videos, 5 minutes if you need to just like refresh your technique. And he said, I want you to record like the last set of like your heaviest, of your, the last set of your workout for each of the exercises. And we'll just do a form check. So I got like a cheapo little, tripod thing and tried to find a right place in my basement to set it up, and uploaded the videos and got feedback right away of like, okay, this looks good. So just that, I don't think we did like an actual online session. I think by that time, maybe it was farther enough along, at least that, the technique stuff that we could talk about together. I think actually we looked at my form together. We watched the clips and just drew some lines, keep this here, make sure your knees aren't over your feet, little things that we kind of tweaked together. And then it was just kind of, keeping that going.
Did you have any major technique epiphanies within your first couple of weeks with Nick where you're like, oh, this makes so much more sense, or this feels so much better, or this hurts less, or anything like that?
I don't remember any epiphanies. I think I had way overcomplicated the squat. And so I was just, micromanaging everything. So I think the big epiphany was like, just lay off, like just let your body, like really just feel it. Let yourself bounce off the bottom, like just kind of work with it. And that was a huge change for me, instead of like making my mechanical body look exactly like the picture, and like thinking about the muscles. So I have a tendency to like overanalyze and kind of micromanage it. And Nick was like, it's fine. Like, just if I'm like, was my pinky, like in the right place? And he's like, it's fine.
Don't worry about it.
So just even having that is right. Like, don't worry about it. So that was a big lesson for me of like, and I want to say like a life lesson of like, just don't micromanage shit. Like, just, it's fine.
Sure. And
You're
again,
going to
it's
get all
nice
the
to have,
bugs.
as you alluded to, it's nice to have the person with the experience there to let you know that you actually don't need to
Totally.
worry about that thing because it's not that important.
Yeah.
What were the major differences that you noticed programming wise?
Less reps. I was doing all this 5x5 stuff.
Yeah.
And so a lot of variation there of like 3x3, 6 sets of 2, singles.
Yep.
So those like sort of a heavy lift and then a back down set of 3x3s or something. So I think he could really tailor it to, a small female.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's another huge benefit, I think, of coaches of like, this wide range of people that you might see. So programming for someone like me is certainly going to look a lot different than, a 22-year-old, 6'3", 200 whatever pound guy,
Sure. Yeah. Did that throw you for a loop at all? Because I get the sense you're an overachiever. And I don't, when I started doing intermediate programming and I moved to sets that were fewer than 5, it kind of felt to me like I was doing less and maybe it wouldn't be as effective, when in fact that was actually what was necessary to drive the progress up. Did you have a similar thought, or was it just like, look, this guy knows what he's doing, I trust him, and I'm just going to do what he says?
Yeah, that was the second part. Gotcha. For sure.
Cool. So you guys built a real bond and some real trust with Nick.
I did. Yeah. I really did. I think the other folks that work with him feel the same, of like, I'm not being sold something. I'm not, and somebody that knows what they're doing. That's really what I wanted, to be able to just put everything on. Like, I'm not going to have to worry about this.
How long have you been training with Nick now?
Since about like September 2021. So whatever that is, year and a half.
And what are you, what's keeping you motivated? Are you still making PRs? Did you achieve your goal? How are you feeling about lifting now that you're pretty damn strong and progress is slower than it was? Things
were going swimmingly. I'm like always looking forward to my workouts, something I'd never really had with running. So it just kind of fed itself for a while. The numbers, I really lost interest in numbers. There's like, I got the sticker numbers in the back of my head, but nothing, wasn't forcing a number, which also I think is key, of like just letting the progression happen, just be consistent. I started getting to maybe it was like the beginning of this year. I was starting to feel a little bit of a grind. And I couldn't really put my finger on it. And I didn't tell Nick just yet, but I was like, I don't know. It's just not quite as magical as it was. And I just hoped it went away. And then I kind of tweaked my back a little bit, just like a muscles pull. And, had to sort of drop down a little bit in weight on something, and forced to just because of my back. And it was kind of a relief, I found, to sort of do that lighter weight. And then in comparison, when I sort of went back to the heavier weight, I sort of had this shift in perspective of like, oh, okay, like I can get my mind now around the grind. Like, it is a grind. And there's sort of, I don't even know how to explain it, but it sort of put in perspective to me, like, this is, it's not a decline. It's not, when it starts feeling grindy, it's not that I'm losing anything. It's just, I need to up my resources for dealing with the grind, kind of like out mile 82 in the middle of the friggin' woods, at night. So I think it helped me sort of get this perspective of, right, okay, the heavy days are going to be the heavy days, the grindy days are just going to be the grindy days. And I had to sort of get my head around that. So I feel like, I told Nick, it's like the easiest hard thing I've ever done is lifting. I'm like, get to, for me, I still really love how my body feels under the bar. I like the resistance. I like the deliberate slowness of it. I think that's just kind of how I'm wired. I was trying to tell my running friends, I'm like, you get to sit down for like 5 minutes all the time. I'm like, this is amazing. And then you do like a really, really, really hard thing. And then you get to sit down. And then you get to do a really, really hard thing. And I'm like, this is exactly what I want to do. Like, this is brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I feel great. I feel 100 times better than I ever did running. Running just makes you tired and hungry, and, you're not building muscle, really.
If you're running 100 miles, you're absolutely burning muscle. It's like the catabolic
that's
activity.
a great point.
You're chewing up whatever available resource you have, because you've got to fuel the propelling your body forward requires fuel, right? So, have you done blood work as an ultra marathoner versus now as a lifter?
I don't think there was any huge difference. As I'm aging, I think that may be like a little bit of a confounding factor. I think my cholesterol was a little bit higher, but I also was shifting to eating more meat, more protein, more animal stuff. I wasn't a vegetarian or anything, but I started eating better. It was borderline. I think my cholesterol was kind of borderline on the higher side, but nothing, I had some anemia, I think, running a lot. That's gone away. But
I'd be really curious to see your C-reactive protein, your systemic inflammation marker.
I'll have to write that down.
If you,
what is it?
C-reactive protein. If you happen to find it after we talk, feel free to email Bree and she can throw it in the show notes or put it up on the screen, just if there's anything notable there. I want to ask, so I've got several follow-ups on the running versus lifting thing. So you feel less beat up. That makes a lot of sense. What about like your mood and your energy? Is there anything else you want to share about how you feel as a runner, as a lifter versus a runner?
I would say I feel more energized. I would say I have more. One thing I noticed, earlier on was just kind of feeling more solid, feeling just physically. And the cool thing is now, like, I run socially. I'll run like maybe once a week with friends. And I'm able to, we're not running super fast, but I'm lifting helps me maintain, enough strength so I can go out and run like 5 to 10 miles in the woods. Again, not super fast, but really without a problem.
It's no big deal.
So I'm able to, I can hike, I can do a lot of stuff, and still not feel like I'm, huffing and puffing.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because a lot of people, unfortunately, look at this stuff as kind of black and white. It's not black and white. You can run and you can lift. You can lift and you can run. There's optimal ways you can set these things up based on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. But I'll bet you running is more enjoyable now, isn't it? Because it's not the thing. Absolutely. It's just kind of a hobby that you do on the side with buddies. Yeah. And I don't know about you. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. But when I ran as a skinny, weak guy, and then I did the starting strength program and was preparing for a fight, and had to do some road work for the fight. And running was just a lot easier for me. Like each Rippito says, each step that you take is more submaximal. And I certainly found that to be true. And I felt like my joints were getting less beat up because my legs were strong. I had quad definition, and I had more support around my joints. What was your experience with that?
I would say the exact same thing. Yeah. Just feeling steadier, feeling stronger, feeling like a climb, feeling like I just felt stronger overall. And noticeable, I think that was, again, sort of part of what I wanted in, from lifting, also all the benefits of just like feeling stronger, which I never had a sense of what it felt like to be strong ever in my life before. So obviously, because wasn't strength training or doing something that would demand my strength. Running is just pounding, I wasn't like doing handstands or push-ups or anything like that. But, so it feels really, and I think this is definitely something for women. A lot of women who are working on trying to get their bodies smaller, which I certainly, was a victim of that. To be in a bigger body, to be in a more muscular body, to be in a stronger body, is it can be counterintuitive, but like so amazing when you're like, oh wait, this is all good.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind taking up more space now.
Well, not only that, but that little mind bug is so prevalent that I'll have middle-aged gals in the gym who are gaining weight, but their waists are getting smaller and their butts are getting bigger, and they're still worried about the weight gain. And I'm like, hold on a sec here. Everything is going in the right direction. Yeah, you're getting stronger and you're happy with how you look, and there's just some arbitrary number on the scale. Muscle's heavy, right? It's heavier than fat.
Yeah.
What was your what's your opinion on aesthetics? So I totally understand your message that, you know, you feel better, you're in a bigger body, a stronger body, a more capable body. From a purely functional, logical perspective, that makes perfect sense. But we all know, you know, you being a psychologist especially, the emotional side's critically important, and body image, especially for women, is a huge part of identity. How do you feel about your aesthetics as a lifter versus a runner?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the body, like maybe I was mentioning before, like this is the body I thought I would get from running a lot, with just like larger muscles, more definition. But it has, you know, I find some old snags, sure, when I'm like, you know, this is one thing, like we kind of tease Nick about, of like, we have to buy new clothes now. Like, and like none of the women can like find shirts that fit because, you know, they're not made for muscular women.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of it was a little bit of an adjustment of just kind of like being in a larger body when everything, not everything, but like when maybe your learning history is we're all trying to be in smaller bodies, or smaller bodies are more attractive, or whatever. So knowing that I'm strong, like it's like this because I'm strong. It's not like this because I'm not healthy.
Hell yeah.
It is a mindset for me.
We like capable women over here at Starting Strength, you know?
Yeah.
There's no virtue in being dainty and fragile as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I never really had that body anyway. As like a 5 foot, I was never like a ballerina. So it was sort of like, you know, was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Waiting for the weights.
Well, Mindy, I know you have some thoughts you alluded to earlier about lifting for women and potentially women in their middle age in particular. So please share whatever you think is worth mentioning about that.
Yeah. You know, I think one thing that's really helpful is seeing other people like you kind of doing it. That's one thing. I think for me, like sort of feeling in isolation of like being afraid to sort of reach out to Nick, because I'm like, what's he gonna want to do with like this middle-aged lady? I'm not a client, so not even seeing myself in that role. But so some of it I think is just like, yeah, there's lots of different kinds of people out there lifting, for one. And the other thing I would say is like, try the experience, see if you like it, you know, have the actual experience of going to a seminar, or at least, you know, going to a Starting Strength gym and working out with somebody just to see what it feels like under the bar. Is that something that your body wants to do? With somebody that you can trust, you know, someone that's here not to, you know, sell you a program or be, you know, having like 50 other clients while you're standing there like with a barbell by yourself. So I think the one-on-one attention, I would say like go have the experience, see if you like it, that it's available to you.
Give us the Mindy Slovinsky bullshit meter recommendation. So I'm assuming it's something like when you talk to the person, try to validate whether or not they're mostly interested in something that's selfish for them, or if I can tell that they're actually interested in what benefits me. That's kind of how I look at things. How do you approach when you're sussing somebody out for the first time?
Yeah, I think I think there's sort of an air, like sort of a sense of confidence in the person, you know, like I felt like Nick knew what he was talking about, but he also didn't need to tell me that he knew what he was talking about. You could just tell, like, sort of matter of fact, this is how we, you know, this is just how it is. So I think that sort of trust piece, along with sort of like a quiet confidence piece, and somebody who's just willing to meet you where you are. You know, I think that's huge that you can get from that sense of a coach, of somebody who's not like, let me show you how it's done, like getting under the bar and like, you know, like doing a bunch of bench press, just like, hey, I see where you are. You know, somebody that can really join you in wherever it is that you are. If it's like, I'm afraid to even like get under the bar, of like, okay, here's how I want you to hold it. You know, here's what you can expect. Here's how I want you to put your feet, just see what happens. Like kind of to walk, like a matter of fact, you know, helpful walkthrough, I would imagine, you know, of like, just something that would get you willing to try.
Yep.
And again, I think for some people, they're like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I just don't think that's for me. Awesome. I think for me, I was so kind of surprised and happy to be like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. Like it was a relief, you know, like I could let go of the running, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, by the time this episode comes out, which will be probably a month and a half or 2 months, I believe we'll have our new website up and our new franchise-wide offer, which is anyone can come in for a free 30-minute coaching session. So come in, see a coach, do a lift, see if it's for you. If anybody's pushing at all and trying to get you to sign up in a way that doesn't make you feel comfortable, please let me know. And that will be resolved. That's not how we do business. And then if you're like Mindy and you live out away from people in a nice, peaceful area, and you don't have access to a gym, you can get coaching from one of our coaches at any of our gyms. If you go to onlinecoaching.startingstrengthgyms.com. Mindy, what can we do better? Is there anything that should be improved about, I know that the community aspect stuff, you're kind of just lifting alone. Do you have any ideas on what we can do to improve things, or are you pretty happy with the way they are?
I'd say I'm pretty happy with how things are. You know, Nick has his clients on like sort of a Slack channel, and that's really helpful just to sort of like, you know, it's super supportive. We can like make fun of each other in a good way, but also like there's all kinds of cheers for a PR, even if it's just like 1 pound or something like that. So that's my substitute for sort of being able to go to a gym and see people. And it's a whole wide range, and there's, you know, so it's feels like a fun community. Yeah. So that part's really great.
Yeah. I know a few of Nick's clients. He's got a good group.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to mention that I haven't asked you about?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we covered a lot of stuff. I would hope that if there's people out there that might come across this podcast that are thinking about lifting and are like in their late 40s, female, little athletic background, and they're curious that there's something in what I said that might sound like it might be okay to check it out.
Yeah. I think when it comes to preventing wasting of muscle mass, of losing bone density, of all of the nasty stuff that comes along with that aging women are especially susceptible to, balance issues and falling down and breaking hips and all this nonsense, it doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that way. You can be a double body weight deadlifter just like Mindy, and you can be forged from steel as much as you can be by just, you know, continually refining your physical capability under the bar, and then all the psychological benefits that come along with that. And actually, Mindy, I wanted to end there. So are you taking on remote clients in your practice by chance? I know several people that are looking for a good psychotherapist at the moment, because the demand is high and the supply is low. So I'm just curious if you take people remote.
Yeah. There's a couple of caveats. I can't, with my license, we can't see people outside of Maine for psychotherapy, but there is like a version of like kind of coaching, that would just be slightly different, that would allow for out-of-state clients, to, you know, they can reach me at my email. And and reach out and work it that way. So I couldn't do. Sure. It's my name, Mindy Slovinsky @gmail.com.
Cool. Okay.
And if you want to ask about like remote coaching, would sort of fall under that umbrella.
Gotcha. Excellent. Okay, good. Well, I think we'll wrap there. Mindy, I'm glad you came on the show. I think more people need to understand the benefits of this, specific to your demographic. So we just told the story for about an hour here, and you're contrasting it with your experience as an ultra marathoner, and it's you've done the other stuff, and you're doing this, and this is what suits you at this stage of your life, and the benefits speak for themselves. So. So lastly, do you share anything online? Do you have a social media account where people can follow you lifting and things, or are you a little private with that stuff?
Yeah, I don't.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
If you don't mind though, please send us some videos so we can stitch them into this podcast episode.
Sure.
And if you do have a PR that you're proud of that you think would inspire other women, please share that with Nick, and then we can put that up on the social media accounts and help spread the word.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for your time today, Mindy. It was nice talking to you.
Thanks. You too.
All right. I'll let you know when this thing goes live. Give us a couple of months.
Okay. Right. Sounds good, Ray.
Thanks. Talk soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.